Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. In honor of Black History Month, we thought we'd showcase some of the great defining Black characters that the world has come to love.
Last year we tackled the MCU, so to match that selection of excellent characters, we're paying tribute to DC's roster of influential heroes, particularly their triumphs in television.
So without further delay, let's explore the history of Victor Stone, aka Cyborg, on Black History Heroes.
Booyah!
All right, man, oh man, Dragon, we've got a good one. We're kind of just building it. We're building it up, man. We're building it up to the grand finale. I feel like Cyborg is a perfect penultimate selection for Black History Heroes. Of course, I feel like Cyborg is one of the more well-known DC Black heroes. Dragon, of course, most well-known probably for the his illustrious run on the Teen Titans show, and of course he's also a member of the Justice League now. Lots of other good stuff to his name. Pivotal role in Young Justice. Lots of good things going on for our Victor Stone here, Dragon, and I feel like we're gonna have a lot to cover here. This is a pretty pivotal character.
Oh yeah,
the founding African American Teen Titan, which I think is pretty cool.
Certainly. All right, so let's just without further ado, let's just break it down. Let's start.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Let's Book of Genesis type stuff here. Okay, so Cyborg first appeared in DC Presents number 26 from 1980, created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, or Perez, however. Some people pronounce it differently. I like Perez, but Perez, whatever. Point being, these guys, Tiki, what's important about Wolfman and Perez is that they were the guys who kind of redefined the Teen Titans. They were the guys who they did the book called The New Teen Titans, which essentially gives us the Teen Titans phenomena that eventually gives us the good Teen Titans show, and vice versa. All of this is a Wolfman Perez is doing, and the idea, now I could be wrong here, but as far as my understanding, as far as I could find, because again, a little fuzzy on the early Teen Titans stuff, because again, I was so enamored with the animated show, I never really, basically they were inspired heavily by the new Teen Titans, but kind of had kind of that nice kind of spit and polish that the animated show had, so I never felt the need to really go dive deep into the Titans' backstory. But point being, I believe they introduced these characters outside of your characters like Robin and so on. So, your big notable ones that have just kind of been there for decades.
I know Linkara is specifically partial to the Teen Titans comics.
Well, yeah, sure. And again, those Teen Titans comics, the new Teen Titans, that's the lineup that it gives us. That's the memorable lineup. That's those are the all-star lineup. And the point being, I believe they introduced a lot of the new players in these DC Presents books, and basically try to get a sampling of them. So they could kind of have a calculated release with the new Teen Titans book, which would follow shortly after that. I believe in the same year, if not a year after. That's when Teen Titans comes out, and they're all on a team. So basically, introducing the new lineup and kind of building some hype, if you will. So of course, Cyborg, the way Cyborg fits into everything is that they're doing the Teen Titans, they're putting together a team, and they're kind of crafting who do we put on this team, what kind of characters do we want on this team. We're going to have some notable heroes and some new guys and some really off the wall guys. And what they really wanted, of course, teen being the operative word, they wanted young heroes as well as kind of some diversity amongst the team. Because if you think about it, think of like one of the original lineups, kind of the main lineup that we have. You have your main five. You got a Robin, who's kind of your classic DC. You have a Tamaranian, kind of an alien with Starfire. You have someone who's all about magic and kind of dark magic and everything with Raven. You have Beast Boy, who's green, he can shapeshift, and we have Cyborg, who one is very visually interesting, kind of the robot angle, but again, kind of some diversity within, kind of seeing someone represented that usually wouldn't be represented at that time. But again, DC being this is the era of DC when they're really proactive and they're really doing some really great things with race and comics. And we introduce a great kind of character in that. And that's the genesis of it.
Really quick, was Cyborg before or after Static? I want to say he was before, right?
Oh yeah, before.
Okay,
Static,
just making sure.
Static was in the 90s, Tiki.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Okay, point being, so that they're crafting a team and they want very diverse members, like no two characters alike on a team, as well as a kind of insecure evolving characters. So that was the genesis of like the creation of Cyborg, what they were looking for and what they were looking for to put on the team. And and yeah, again, all kind of culminates in the new Teen Titans book, which gives us the primary lineup that we kind of see in all the permutations we get today, whether good or bad. Primarily those five guys are kind of the main, kind of like the big one of the original lineups.
Uh-huh.
I think if you want to be technical, you could say I think one of the real. It's like how the Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad is it's like Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, and Rick Flag, like we know it. But if you want to be uber technical, it was an idea in the '50s that started Rick Flag, but really like no name hero, no name villains on that team. If you want to be technical, there was like a Robin, a Kid Flash, and a Aqualad, but that was really Young Justice. But I don't want to split hairs. Point being, that's the kind of creation of Cyborg.
That is not the Will Smith Suicide Squad.
No. Anyway, so let's talk legacy, man.
All right, so Dragon, just in a nutshell, here's my thesis on my feelings on Cyborg and his legacy. I think it's so cool because I feel like Cyborg represents. He's someone where you can. I'm trying to put this in the words as best as I can, Dragon. I've been thinking a lot about how to present this. He is a character where his disability kind of spotlights what it's like to be to be different. You know what I mean? I feel like I feel like the robotic side of him is almost kind of like an allegory. Like it's a way for kids and young readers to more greatly understand the isolation that one might feel. You know what I mean? Because he's a star athlete, but he's still kind of cast aside in that way. Am I making sense here?
Yes, you are, and there's also a bit of an olive branch too. Of course, with Cyborg, again, this is the '80s, and things are, it's not as quite as dicey as when black African American characters were introduced in the earlier eras. Like in the '60s, it was a really progressive thing. And don't get me wrong, it's still like there are big things to be said about these characters, but I love that even if you're not taking that away from Cyborg, I love that Cyborg as a character opens that up for conversation because you have the cybernetics as the allegory. The cybernetics are the allegory. Like there's something different about him in that he's looked at differently, or he views himself as people view him differently.
Right.
Some people view him as a monster.
And I
It's basically
feel like
an
that's
olive
like a
branch
good
for a
jumping
conversation.
off point for story potential with him that doesn't necessarily have to directly address racism, but still kind of has like shades and themes of racism, right?
Exactly, it's an olive branch for a conversation about a bigger
Uh-huh.
topic that you don't need to factor in there. But again, it's like a part of him, but you don't. Again, he's a part of him is also kind of speaking to a separate to the human part of him as well. So it's really clever that way.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, I mean, just broadly, some other things. I'm sorry, did you have more to go with? I don't want to touch on.
No, I other than just the fact that I think it's cool that he is unlike someone like, let's say, John Stewart Green Lantern, he's a teenager. I think that was a big distinction to make. Like the big African American characters that came before him, the Luke Cages of the world and and the Black Panthers. These are fully fledged adult characters, right? And so with Victor Stone, I think it's cool that that teenagers got someone to really look up to and idolize, especially African American teenagers.
Absolutely, and I feel for starters, I think the big legacy, one of the big legacy pulls with Cyborg is that he's the breakout star of the team. He's the Fonzie of the Teen Titans. Everybody loves Cyborg, and I think it goes to show. Again, Cyborg he's kind of climbed to the heavens. He's kind of
I think
climbed
he is
Olympus.
the most agreeable one because it's like, Beast Boy can kind of get on people's nerves. Robin is kind of a Boy Scout. Starfire is a bit abrasive here and there with her culture shock. And then Raven, let's just say Raven has a type of people that are really, really drawn to her. The pan pizzas of the world. Those are the big Raven fans in the room.
The Raven does have a follow. I'll give you that. I think of the breakout stars, you have Raven, but I think here's the thing. I think everyone I think can kind of go more for Cyborg because Cyborg, he's more Well, for me as a fan, like I'm more of a, I'm not a Magic guy. And I really Magic's always a splitting point. Which years like into the Doctor Strange era that we're at now with things. Like I'm more open minded to Magic than I've ever been ever. And I'm still like even the first Doctor Strange movie. Like I like it, but there's still some magical elements. Like what, it's good, but I love Doctor Strange more so when he's just like fully formed and he just does magic. We don't need to
I think
talk about
Infinity War Doctor Strange is like the best Doctor Strange.
and that's what I'm saying, Tiki. I mean, that's the thing. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think the Doctor Strange movie, it sold me on magic like I hoped it would. The mechanics of kind of the practicalities of like how's a guy learn magic like that. But I love the not knowing about any of that and just seeing him kind of work like a really awesome magician in Infinity War. And so any other time he has an appearance, like that's a Doctor Strange I really love. The other one's great, but the one we have now is perfect as he's fully formed. What I'm saying is, I think Raven is like, she has like a whole backstory and everything. The point is, Raven's a bit much, and I don't mean that bad. I mean, there's a lot of baggage there, and it's good baggage. Just
yeah.
Like she has a whole
there's
thing
baggage
Trigon
in the good sense, and also, like I said, Dragon baggage in the the creepy nerds fetishizing goth girls sense. You know what I mean? There's a whole kind of subculture there with Raven that's a little bit icky.
Exactly, and the same thing. I just want to make like a case of it, like the Starfires and the Ravens on the team. But what I mean, like even with Beast Boy, he comes from the Doom Patrol, again the show they're making now. Which oddly enough, for some bizarre reason, Tiki, they switched that.
Cyborg's on it, but Beast Boy's not.
And yeah, Beast Boy's in the Teen Titans show, yet Cyborg isn't.
Right.
Weird switcheroo there. I mean, I don't quite get why.
Fuck Batman.
Anyway, point being. You see where I'm getting at, though, right? Is the fact that even Beast Boy's got he's got like a whole. You have to look into the Doom Patrol if you want to get the full Beast Boy story. Cyborg gets pretty clear cut. He's a real. Again, he's just the star of the team as well. He has a really great origin story that really, again, even if you never knew anything about the guy, you don't need the origin story as the show kind of demonstrated, but you have it kind of looming over the guy.
You basically kind of like just looking at him is kind of like you can kind of deduce what happened to him. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna make a big pull here. This is gonna sound a little strange, but I mean, Cyborg. I'm trying to think of maybe you could make a case for like Swamp Thing or someone like that, but Swamp Thing's a lot more complicated, a little bit more artsy. I gotta be honest, Cyborg is kind of the thing of the DC universe in many capacities.
I could see that. Yeah,
maybe not a perfect comparison, but I mean, yeah, he has kind of a this man, this monster thing in a lot of his stories, and I mean, again, I don't know, I think he sees himself as the thing, maybe being the thing. It's kind of the different thing, but I think you have kind of a guy dealing with being different from everybody else's story a lot, which feels very indicative of the thing, which I think maybe that helps with kind of the likability and kind of the relatability of Cyborg as a character, perhaps. And it's very interesting stuff. And beyond that, again, with the football player, and of course, Cyborg, he was a football player, and he's always like the young high school football star with like a promising future and everything. So I think there's something very relatable in that, where you have kind of the African American kind of teen football hero, going to kind of a techno genius. And in Cyborg's origin from the outset, and this has always been a part of the character, Tiki, is that he's always been angry at his father for the origin, for what happened to him. He blames his father, who was a scientist, that basically now they've updated to what exactly the accident was, but the point is that the accident was never important classically, Tiki. He was in an accident, it was caused by his father, and he wanted to die. He's like, well, how could you do this to me? Like, my football career is ruined.
Yeah, he basically turned into a Frankenstein.
Essentially, and that's great.
How he looks at it.
That's the thing. Like, it's like all his potential and everything that he identified himself was taken by his parents. Scientific. His mother was also kind of died, and he was kind of left with his father. So there's a lot of issues with Cyborg and his father. So you have two things right there. One, you have kind of a parents' scientific pursuit, kind of compromising kind of the intellectual versus kind of the more physical sportsman thing there. Kind of like two pursuits, kind of the scholarly and kind of the I guess the more kind of Olympian. And you also have just kind of look, I'm not trying to stereotype anything here, but again, you do have kind of like the war against son and father that you do see in a lot of stories, and of course sometimes in stories involving African American characters, you do have kind of the battle of a really heart wrenching story between fathers and sons. I think Cyborg is also kind of lumped in there.
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes he forgives his father. It takes a long time, and sometimes he just doesn't. And again, that's the way it goes, and you got to respect him for kind of doing that with that character. As I mentioned, of course, with being kind of a sports angle of it all, again, kind of I guess quarterback, if you want to lump it in there, there's a lot of leadership potential with Cyborg, which I think kind of brings him from the Teen Titans to the Justice League thing that happens to him. Where for me, I've always been of two minds about it. I really don't like him on the Justice League because I love him so much as a Teen Titan or as his own character. It just always felt like, why are we putting him on the Justice League? Don't we have enough characters on that team?
Yeah, he seemed like a weird pull for the Justice League movie in particular.
And I've always been against Tiki. I've been against that from the very beginning, since they did in the comics, and because again they basically the movies tried to cram down what the big move in the comics was, and they just crammed it down your throat in every other thing, and therefore ended up in the movie. That's what happened there. And again, for some reasons on the Justice League, we'll dive into that a little bit more later. Let's just say I wasn't a fan of it. I'm still not crazy about it, but I can accept it. That's kind of where I'm at with it. And I guess the last thing
that kind of sounds like an analogy for the Justice League movie as a whole.
Unfortunately,
crazy about it, but I can accept it.
Pretty much. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So, Cyborg overall, just kind of teen working through tragedy, and of course, just kind of working through the tragedy as well as the trouble with his father. So there's a lot of great stuff there.
Sure. All right.
Okay, so let's get into the history lesson of it all, I guess. Well, before that, let's Cyborg is real quick. So Cyborg's introduction, just kind of onto the scene here. So Cyborg in the comics, he was just he had this great introduction. I didn't quite show you this, Tiki, but I mean, technically this may have been the last episode of Teen Titans, the DC Universe streaming service. They kind of aired, I think, the way it was supposed to be aired, where they open a season with this instead of ending the whole series with it.
Okay.
Where they showed the long lost the origin of the Teen Titans from the animated show, where they all meet each other for the first time.
Uh-huh.
And it's pretty much how one of the comics goes. I don't know if it was the first comic, but it's pretty much how they all meet. Where Cyborg, he's going around in the classic hoodie, which they did in the Justice League movie, where they kind of captured that. Where he's just kind of a guy, a guy who's lost all of his potential from high school, really mad at his father, just kind of going around, just kind of looking. The outcast walking around as covered up as he can.
I'm reminded of Raphael in the trench coat.
That's that's it. And again, if you want to draw some parallels here, which again, because apparently we're just referencing Luke Cage every episode here, so might as well.
You know what? Is it really so bad to reference Luke Cage during Black History Heroes?
It's not. I'm peeved about it for a different reason, unrelated to the Luke Cage pulls, but point being. Again, nothing against Luke Cage, just for other reasons.
Luke Cage!
Anyway, but if you want to draw a parallel to Luke Cage here, you do have kind of what we have on the Netflix series, where we have Luke Cage kind of being redefined with the prominence of a hoodie. So that's kind of cool.
Sure.
Now, what I'm really getting at here is kind of a different angle on the hoodie thing, where the fact that Cyborg, he starts that story and kind of starts his introduction onto the scene wearing a hoodie, and he's just he's trying to cover up his kind of his defect, kind of cover up his big difference in the world. And through heroism, he gets into a battle which rips off this hoodie or tatters it, and he kind of rips it off, he removes it when he joins the team. So he's kind of accepted that. Yes, I am the way I am. There's no hiding it, so I might as well embrace it and do something positive with it. So that's his introduction onto the scene. He's the guy repiecing the general story of Cyborg as a whole is a guy repiecing his humanity back together, kind of restitching it back together, as it were, kind of a Frankenstein restitching his humanity. Back together, despite never being able to fully recapture it. And he finds a way on a team, and he kind of finds a place to other people kind of get what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much his origin onto that.
I feel like the family angle for the Teen Titans applies more strongly to Cyborg than it does to anyone else.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The Titans as a concept, these are all characters, and this is inside in the comics, but they do a little bit more, a smidge more.
They're almost like the original Guardians of the Galaxy Dragon. They're a bunch of misguided assholes for the most part.
In essence, yeah, and that's the thing.
I say that in an endearing Guardians of the Galaxy way, though.
Yeah. Or as Peter Quill puts it, losers, as in they've lost things, not in that they stink.
That's true, yeah.
and that's the thing. I mean, I love that even the animated show, but as well as the comics, the big hook with the whole teen of it all was that these are all teens that are, if not runaways, they're teens that are they're at a point in their lives where they're kind of rebelling against their either their Batmans or their
This is a rebellion, isn't it? I rebel. I'm
sure.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
But you see what I'm saying, though, right? It's like
Yeah,
like
I
a
see what you're
Beast Boy.
saying. Yeah, yeah,
Beast
yeah.
Boy had lost his family with the Doom Patrol. Cyborg, and he's angry at his father for the origin. Raven has really deep daddy issues. I can't go into right now. It's just too many
Oh,
to
I
count.
know about it. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Just Trigon. That's all I'll say, folks. Trigon. It's a rough life.
Oh God.
And Starfire just kind of kind of having kind of left her planet, kind of in a Superman situation. She's
Starfire
kind
is
of
almost like the Drax of the Titans.
pretty much, yes. Again, she was the original Drax. You got to give her that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's again, they're all just have kind of found each other and built a family. So yeah, kind of. I love your original Guardians point. I will give you
Yeah,
credit
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So overall, how we feel about Cyborg? You start us off.
Yeah, Dragon. I mean, I really feel like the personality of Cyborg is just magnetic, and that's one of the big draws for me. You know what I mean? Cyborg's a character of like he's very multifaceted in that he is kind of a tortured soul on the outside, but on the inside, I should say. But on the outside, he is kind of like this this big boisterous guy who hasn't lost his charm. He's still like the star high school quarterback, at least in the way he carries himself. And I think there's something really admirable about that struggle, Dragon, about trying to put on a brave face for society. And it's a universal experience, but it's definitely something that I feel like African Americans in particular can relate to, especially because, of course, with African American society, Dragon, not to get too socio-political on you, but as you know, I feel like there's more of a standard for like masculinity in the African American society, especially with males, than in other societies. You know what I mean? Like being white, I don't feel like there's as much of a pressure to be masculine. And so I feel like Cyborg is kind of like a reflection of that. You know what I mean? He on the outside he is sort of like this masculine, like lovable, jovial sportsman guy, but then on the inside he really is kind of this tortured soul. He's of two minds.
Yeah, and again, look, it's going to sound very socio-political, so again, forgive me, folks. I'm
And
just
that's
gonna.
okay. This is I feel like Black History Heroes is the most socio-political thing we do all year. So by all means, if there's ever a podcast for socio-political conversation, this is the one. Go ahead.
Yeah, as per usual, Tiki and I were, as we've said, like I believe, like last season on Blackish Years, we're the two whitest white men you could ever find. You need sunglasses around us, folks. But I might be just kind of talking completely out of school here. I'm just going to take a swing at it here.
I mean, Dragon, I like to think that I'm not like super white just because I am like 50% full-blooded Italian. So, I got kind of like an olive skin thing going on there. But let's face it, I'm whiter than white. At least how I carry myself and how I conduct myself, I'm whiter than white.
Right. Anyway, so okay, so the piggyback off the excellent point that you made. I'm going to make a reach here again with the masculinity. Here is that again you could make a reach that again it could stem from a lot of many households you have like there's issues with the father, a lack of father. Sometimes there's a stepping out of the father. Sometimes just like issues that are kind of sometimes abuse. There's a number of issues there that kind of propel like overcompensation and masculinity, or kind of the school of hard knocks kind of mentality. A lot of things. But on the flip side, I don't want to just be one-minded about them. On the flip side of it, you also have kind of thing Cyborg, as I was kind of highlighting earlier, is that again, Cyborg was a guy who was kind of in kind of the masculine, kind of like kind of jovial, kind of like Letterman football kind of status, who again kind of went to kind of the really intellectual kind of techno genius. And something I'm going to kind of tee up our finale here. Something that the Milestone Comics group really kind of strived was to kind of capture what they were like as African American teens and kids in their comics. And what they did was, they really wanted to show that you could be an intellectual kind of a smart guy in the room, that you weren't just kind of in like boxed into like a stereotype, because basically it was an underrepresented portion of African American youth that was never kind of represented in comics. It was always like sometimes you were a street tough, sometimes you were like a gangbanger, a street tough, like a lot of just you really box into like a one note sort of thing. And again, what they tried to do is kind of diversify and show there are black kids, there are black teens who are really smart, really intelligent, but they have to downplay it or they get roped into to the bad crowd and they have to overcompensate. It's a shame that happens, and I think that's kind of what Cyborg.
I feel like we saw that recently with Miles Morales and Spider-Verse.
Yeah, a little bit of that too. Or again, there's a lot of creativity that sometimes gets stifled by other things or by.
My point is, another great example of that.
One of the great examples, yes. Oh man, I love Cottonmouth. Yeah, folks, we didn't have a show called Black History here, we would have talked about Cottonmouth already.
Okay? Right. If Hero wasn't in the name, yeah.
Hero wasn't in the name. One we'd yeah. Okay, anyway.
And Black History villains would get a little awkward.
That's the thing. Black History villains would be a little tricky. But anyway, my point, getting back to my...
I'm not saying it's impossible, but...
It's not impossible, because, again, there are a lot of really interesting facts. Because we could do or dissertation on Cottonmouth. We love that character. But, Cornell...
Of course, Killmonger would be another really
good one. Yes. Again, let's not build an imaginary lineup we're probably never going to do. Let's All right. What I'm getting at, what I'm saying is there was an expectation that's thrust upon people just to piggy. That's my roundabout way of piggybacking off.
Yeah.
There's an expectation. All right. So I guess overall for me with Cyborg is that I think I'm sorry. Unless you had anything else.
No, I'm good. I saw my piece.
Well, to keep it simple, Cyborg, he's I think Cyborg at his best is what I saw in the Teen Titans animated show, where Cyborg at his best to me. And yes, that was my first introduction, I guess, and maybe it's kind of colored my perspective on it. Maybe, I don't know.
I think it was like most people's introduction.
That's the thing. I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think, again, I think it's I think they really captured I read a little bit of the new Teen Titans stuff. I think they captured it well and captured it better, in my opinion, but it's just me. My point being, I think Cyborg, when done at his best, is kind of he's a smart guy, but at the same time he's smart, he's fun he's fun loving. The guy's gonna give like a jovial booyah in the heat of battle. He's gonna play video games on the side. He's gonna be the kind of a tinkerer, kind of a tech guy, which always kind of reached me because I'm a big gadget nut, so I always kind of love that with Cyborg.
Waffles.
He does love waffles, and again, my point is he's a guy. Cyborg at his best, he's chipper, but never losing that tragedy in the background. He's a guy who's probably put it behind him, but he's still dealing with the aftermath. I'm not saying you can't do anything with the origin. I'm just saying I love it when you can have your cake and eat it too with that, where you can still be a fun-loving guy, but at the same time, you never lose the tragedy or those moments where Cyborg really kind of steps up to the plate emotionally.
Yeah, exactly.
And on the whole, what the character kind of is at first glance, and it's not a bad thing, is that he's kind of he has these moments of kind of RoboCop reminders of kind of the man-machine arc. It's like kind of one of the great things in the first RoboCop movie. It's kind of the man versus machine question. You do have that with Cyborg, but again, we kind of play with the humanity more when done right. And and the broader scope of what Cyborg is as well, because again, in recent years, basically post Teen Titans, with that show is exclusively let's avoid the parents or the perennial figures, with the exception of Trigon. We're going to avoid seeing those characters.
Sure.
And what we did here, what is done with Cyborg most traditionally is that we introduce his father, which the movie is done, the animated stuff is done. We've introduced Silas Stone, again, kind of delved into those issues. And I love that we kind of see in the Cyborg's guy who's tried to mend things with his father, who he blames, and so all of that again. That my point is that's kind of the arcade guy who really has really deep, well-founded daddy issues. And of course, the biggest thing we got, I guess, to talk about overall is Khary Payton is that character. I think Khary Payton.
Absolutely, he embodies the character for sure.
That is, to me, as Khary Payton.
And you know what, Dragon? Even on that show that shall not be named, I think he still does a good job.
Look, those guys. Look, without saying that show's name, the Khary Payton and the rest of the cast from the original Teen Titans. Look, they love those characters, and they think they're playing. Unfortunately, they think they're playing.
The writing's off, but you know what? I'm still going to give it my all. I'm still going to perform this as if I was this character.
I don't hold them responsible, Tiki.
Absolutely.
As far as they know, they're playing those characters, and they're not paid. They're not paid to analyze the writing. Okay, that's not on them.
Yeah, right.
Do the job and sound like those characters, and that's what they're doing. But again, Khary Payton, I think to me, this has always been Khary Payton's definitive role. He's been in a lot of things. He's done a lot of great roles, but this I mean, right currently when we have him as Wasabi on Big Hero 6, which is really good.
Of course, yeah.
Seriously, this to me like this is the definitive card Payton performance.
Uh-huh.
All right. So let's break down kind of the grand journey of Cyborg. Let's talk about his growth. Let's start with primarily, folks. We're going to tackle the animated stuff with Cyborg here because we kind of talked a little bit about the comics. I'm not up to date on a lot of the Cyborg stuff in the comics because again, I'm not really crazy about Cyborg on the Justice League and so on and so forth. I know he has like some original series, but again, it's that I haven't quite gotten to it, so we're going to forgo a lot of the a lot of the comic stuff is representing some of the animated stuff, so we're kind of meeting in the middle there. So the point is, let's start with Teen Titans.
The show or the comic? I'm sorry.
The animated show. So again, we're forgoing the comic stuff with Cyborg. We're just kind of tackling the animated stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so what I like about the Teen Titans show, as you said, Dragon, is that it's like we don't really need to know the backstory. We kind of just like infer it, like. We know that an accident happened. We know that he's wrestling with the whole half human, half machine of it all with his identity. But, that's about it. Like all the things that we love about Cyborg are kind of like known and represented through that show without like a mountain of exposition to get to. We really don't need all that stuff with his father, as compelling as it is. We can kind of just put the pieces together.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. They kind of had the kind of the John Hughes approach, kind of the Breakfast Club approach, the Teen Titans animated show, where they try to kind of get them down to archetypes and kind of explore them through that vein.
Sure.
And I think that comes to there's a little bit more substance to it than that. But my point is they kind of went with let's start from the place of everyone has like an assigned role in high school, if you will. Like everyone has like kind of a clique. And they're all just kind of blended together on a team. We get to see like how they would interact, and like Cyborg and Beast Boy are best buddies. It's kind of like an older brother, little brother thing. they get along really well. And Cyborg, he kind of they butt heads at times, but on the whole, like they're really cool with each other. They're Cyborg like Robin trusts Cyborg implicitly, and of course, a lot of stuff going on there. And Cyborg, I guess, in the grand arc with Teen Titans, again, he's made a connection with friends, and he's embracing moving forward. And again, that's kind of like that origin episode, kind of if you want to be chronological things, and that's kind of where Cyborg starts. Then we get some like great stories, some great episodes, like a laundry list of great Cyborg episodes in Teen Titans. We kind of kept it down to a few here. So let's talk about. Some of his parts. Some of his parts is one of my favorites with Cyborg. That's the Mr. Fix. That's the Mr. Fix episode.
Right.
We have the. Sorry, let me rephrase that a little. Sorry. My point is, Cyborg, he's kind of like the Mr. Fix-It of the team. He's the tech guy of the team. Beast Boy's his partner in crime. Cyborg has a number of things that he loves. He loves meat. He loves football. He loves cars. He's a nice guy overall. And that's pretty much.
I love all the episodes involving his car, Dragon. That was a delight. It wasn't like the most pivotal character stuff in the role, but it was really fun to watch.
Cyborg loves the T car. He loves doing that. He loves tinkering with the car. He loves racing it. I just love that when the car got stolen, he's just like, did my car lost? No, it won. Oh, good, because I was really. I just love that he gets so wrapped up in the car.
Right.
Again, just Cyborg, it's the tinker Cyborg. Just delights me to no end. So, what I meant to say. So after all of that, so I just want to highlight some Cyborg's qualities that we get to see in the show. And also, again, I don't know if you didn't really get a good sampling of this from what I sent you, but again, you've seen the Teen Titans show. It's been a while for you, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember Cyborg loves meat? I just love that running gag. Cyborg he goes gaga for meat.
Right.
Just random. It's just meat, and there's also like Cyborg loves to eat as well. I mean, that's the thing too, because there's like this episode. I don't know if you saw it, and it was kind of like the dessert at the end of the tunnel, if you will, where he gets infected by a virus. Did you see the computer virus? So. Basically, Cyborg is a virus, and Beast Boy and Gizmo have to go inside of him, and they have to kind of cure him. And basically, Cyborg, this virus is like messed with his head, so he's seeing all sorts of just regular inanimate objects as giant food and candy and cake items. Right. He's eating like crazy, eating like it's Candy Crush outside.
Oh God.
is going nuts. Oh, anyway, so again, off of the silly stuff, onto some of like the. So in Cyborg, we're introduced him as like a fun-loving guy. Is my point. And then we have these reminders from time to time. These excellent reminder episodes, like some of his parts.
Yeah, you know what the character development in Teen Titans reminds me of, Dragon, is it almost kind of has like a Hey Arnold quality to it for me, where the characters are introduced as archetypes, but then through individual episodes, through like centric episodes, we really get to learn more about them. You know what I mean? Is that a fair comparison?
That is a fair comparison. I'll raise you this. Actually, almost every season of the 5 seasons, there were 5 seasons. Each season kind of has an overarching. There's a character that kind of stars in each season. Like Robin is season 1 because that's the whole Slade Wilson, the Deathstroke arc.
Sure.
Basically, him being Robin's archenemy in that series, being that whole season's dedicated to those. That's like that's the seeded arc through that's the finale. It's those two going up against each other. Season 2 is the only one. Like Starfire has a couple episodes in that, but she's really Starfire is really not the. That's the thing. Starfire is the only one who kind of got cheated out of all that stuff. That's the shame. Like, oh, poor Starfire. She didn't get like a whole season. She just got like kind of a couple episodes in season 2. Poor her. Well, Cyborg, like he's kind of the king of season 3 with the whole Brother Blood story. Raven season 4, and then Beast Boy gets the Doom Patrol in season 5. So, yeah. Anyway, so getting back to again, so I think your Hey on point is exactly on the money. By the way, I think it's a great comparison. So, from time to time we get reminders of kind of Cyborg's limitations, and I love these episodes, man. I can't get enough of them. Like the two that come to mind instantly. The two that come to mind instantly is some of his parts with that character Fix-It. So Fix-It is this really see again at first you make an assumption about him. He's just a creepy guy. He's just fixing things randomly in this really dark, creepy space. And it's
so basically if the TCEU did like a dark and gritty version of Fix-It Felix.
Sure, that helps. Imagine if you blended Fix-It Felix with. I'm going to give you this. Are you ready for this? Okay, you take Fix-It Felix, purely in name only, by the way, and the fact that he fixes things. You take Fix-It Felix.
I know it's name only. I'm just being silly.
I'm going to raise you this. Okay, you get 1 part Fix-It Felix, another part Pigeon Man.
Oh God! Yes, absolutely, Pigeon Man.
And a third part. Third part being Quato, the underdwelling guy from Total Recall, the guy with the protrusion, that guy Quato or whatever his name was. Anyway, there you go. I
haven't seen Total Recall, so I'm kind of lost me there. But
all right, there's they're underground mutant guy. Okay, that's my point.
Yeah, don't try to explain it, Dragon. All right, I just haven't seen it. All right.
Okay, sure. Simple. Anyway, my point is, so what was your take on this episode, Tiki?
I mean, I agree with you. I think it very much is kind of like the definitive Cyborg episode, at least from what you showed me. It was kind of like it very much kind of reminded me of that definitive Steel episode from Superman the Animated Series that we talked about. It's almost kind of in line with that. It's like diving deep into the mentality of Cyborg.
Right. So my point is, like, we have these great things, and also like the Atlas episode. I think it's Only Human. Where my point in bringing these two episodes up is that it's Cyborg coming to grips with again. There sometimes his. I love that both of these episodes. It just kind of occurred to me in the moment here. Both of these episodes reflect the different aspect that's holding him back. Think about this. Some of his parts shows like the limitations of he has to, his power could run dry and he could be in a very compromising position where the mechanical side of himself is failing. And on the flip side, you have when he goes up against Atlas, the giant Keith David gladiator who's playing video games, and just the fact that it's so ridiculous how this episode kicks off, just hilarious. That Cyborg's feeling a little down about himself, so he's playing video games against somebody, and that person like just loses. He's a sore loser, so he breaks through the TV and wants like a physical rematch. Ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous idea, but it works.
I'll admit, Dragon, when I watched that episode, I had to rewind it a couple times just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Like, wait a minute, now the Titans are in the game 2? What's going on here?
The point being, it's we have an episode where it's all about like the human side of himself is holding his mechanical side back. Well, I mean, a little bit of both. A little bit of both. Where the ideas he only like if he goes 100%, that's as far as he can go. He can't push it like he could as a human. And again, it's kind of at war with himself there. And of course, it's kind of pushing beyond his limits. Again, it's just a fascinating idea of just kind of like a man kind of held back or challenged by limitations. So it's always that's really where they start to really earn a lot of points with Cyborg. There, okay, there's depth to this character. He's not just the fun guy in the room. There's some depth. There's depth to this guy, and then we get to some more reminders. We get to more reminders of that with Brother Blood. So. Season 3 introduced this guy, Brother Blood, who was kind of, for all intents and purposes, Cyborg's arch enemy for that season. And what Brother Blood did was he was temptation for Cyborg. He tempted him with a normal life. That's when Cyborg went undercover as Victor Stone. Again, he used it as Stone, he pumps his fists together and becomes a stone guy. I don't know if maybe it was a subconscious thing, but that's why I made the Thing comparison. He turned the stone that one time. I don't know. But I mean, he's tempted with a normal life because presumably, I mean, I think what actually happens is that Brother Blood was kind of brainwashing him, so he thought he had a human arm. But again, it's unclear if you could actually turn him into human or not. But the point being, he could kind of take the doubt from Cyborg's mind.
Yeah, I really like the line because it very much. I mean, I've only seen an episode or two of it. I haven't seen the whole, the whole season, of course, but. I think this storyline really kind of plays to a few of the key points with Cyborg. The identity thing. The fact that he never really got to have a proper high school life, and I think it's kind of like almost like a perverse wish fulfillment. You know what I mean? Like one of those stories where the villain can offer you everything you've ever wanted, but at what cost?
Absolutely.
All right.
So yes, then we have just the overall with the T car and with everything. We've seen Cyborg can be a little obsessive about upgrades and machinery, and I think just it signifies that he has an unconscious insecurity about himself which is why he upgrades things so much. About like again, if this could be better, it could be, because I think deep down he feels that I'm held back by limitations, but I'm a smart guy. I can kind of design around that. I think that's why he overcompensates with all these upgrades and everything.
Sure.
Let's see. So then we have. So now I don't think you really looked at it. I didn't tell you to really look into this one, so I'm just going to cover it real quick. Is that so? The Cyborg kind of. I don't know if this was. Look, I don't know if this was. I can't remember if this is in the comics or not. But the point being, in the comics, the Justice League they branched out. So they had different iterations of the Justice League. We have the main Justice League, and you have the offshoot of the Justice League. They had the Justice League. God, what was it? The Justice League Detroit. I think it was basically Justice League in a prefix of a different location. They were in like Justice League of a specific section of a specific area with like Aquaman and Martian Manhunter were the leaders. That's what they did, and they kind of mirrored that with the Teen Titans show, where you had Cyborg. He kind of left the Teen Titans, which again may be apropos. Like, hey, in the future, he leaves the Teen Titans to join the Justice League. What do you know? That's what I'm trying to connect there. But point being, Cyborg, he left the Teen Titans to form the Titans East, which is essentially what the Justice League had done in the comics. Where you have the Titans East, and again that explores the leadership potential of Cyborg, and again kind of predicts in a weird way, kind of in a meta way, predicts the future for him of that leadership potential guy could be on the Justice League. So speaking of that, I guess let's talk about the Justice League. So like all that stuff now. Let's dive into it.
The movie, the show. Where do you want to start?
Let's basically the idea in itself. So I guess okay, so let me set it up for you. I'll set it up before we get to the movie of it all. Okay. Cyborg. So of course, as I said, he goes from the Titans to the Justice League, and essentially what happened is they're doing the New 52, right? Doing New 52, and Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns is a character guy, and I always love that about him. Character guy, not much of a story guy. That's the thing. Like he's like Jeff Johns. He can come up with a great idea for an event, and he can do like these great character pieces, like Batman Earth One, like. That's Jeff Johns, like the Shazam thing that he did. That's basically going to really influence the Shazam movie we have coming up. All that It's great. And again, like he cares about characters. Like, you know, he'll go to bat for these guys. Like there's no tomorrow. He loves the Flash. Like, and pretty much the Flash show that we love, it's pretty much Jeff Johns' Flash. It's like all the reverse Flash stuff that I go gaga for. That's Jeff Johns' magic. So that's Jeff Johns. He loved the character of Cyborg, so they're rebooting everything. Justice League with the New 52. So they want to kick everything off with this 6-issue Justice League story of like 6 or 8 issue thing of Justice League. So okay, we're gonna start everything off with like Justice League, and they're gonna go up against Darkseid. It's gonna be cool. And this is pretty much where war comes from, Tiki. Where they reboot. Rebooting the whole team, and they want to add a guy there. So they want to kind of kick Hawkgirl to the side, and kick Hawkgirl or Hawkman, whichever permutation, or and Aquaman, essentially. Kick out whoever that one guy is. And Martian Manhunter, screw him. Get him out of there. Out of there. Instead, I want Cyborg. Why do you want Cyborg? I mean, he's on the Teen Titans. We're changing it up. So, it probably was done a lot more tactfully than that. And again, I don't fault Jeff Johns for loving that character, but he just kind of put him on the Teen Titans on the big first. I'm sorry, he put him on the Justice League for the first big mission, and made him a full-fledged member. And he just wanted, I guess he wanted a tech guy on the team, and he really just well, Cyborg's a tech guy. Let's put him there instead of Mr. Terrific or somebody. You know, like let's. I don't know.
Sure.
That's why we have Cyborg on the Justice League. Jeff Johns is like that character.
I gotta be honest with you, I don't mind the idea as much as you do. I really don't. And the reason why I don't mind the idea is because Cyborg did prove himself to be a capable leader through decades worth of Teen Titans material. So I honestly think it kind of makes sense. I don't know. Call me crazy.
Well, I mean, it's just, again, of all the teams, like, why would you take a member away from the one team and put him on this team when it just...
well, maybe because he's not a teenager anymore? Did the age factor into it at all? I don't know how...
You never want to question age in comics, Take. It's a crazy thing. You never want to question...
All right, fair enough. That's a freaking... All right, fair enough.
It's a can of... No, like, I'm not trying to chew your head off about it. I'm just saying...
No. I'm sure it is a can of worms. I believe you.
Like, Batman's been 30 for, like, 50 years, and then they make him 40, and they give him 3 Robins, and then basically the New 52, this is what I'm getting at. It's like, New 52, it's like, okay, so all the Batman stories in at that point, I guess it was probably like at least 70 years at that point. 70 years of Batman stories all happened within 5 years. Like, kid you not. That was their logic at the 52. We're going to cram Nightfall, No Man's Land, all of it. 5 years. Like technically 4 Robins, too. It's not even 3 Robins. 4 Robins, 5 years. We're going to do it. But he's been Batman for 5 years, yet he has a 10-year-old son within 5.
All right, I get your point.
Sorry, I'm trailing off and I'm talking about Batman again. I'm sorry.
Hey, man, at least you're not talking about Gordon. It's been a long time since you've been on Gordon tangent.
Anyway, so, and I believe me, with Cyborg I could. There's one big thing I could talk about with that, but I'm not. I won't do it.
I hope it doesn't involve J.K. Simmons, Gordon.
Believe it or not, it involves one of the single best Jim Gordon stories I've ever read, but I won't mention it.
All right, fair enough.
Anyway, so getting back on point here. So, I mean, the thing that bugs me too, basically, Cyborg's introduced on the team, and I'm not just trying to like complain about Cyborg. Because I do love, the character's awesome. It's just, let me talk about how they changed him up. So, Cyborg, they changed him up in a fundamental way. They kind of they've always dodged around like what the accident was, just like random lab accidents. They kind of made a very distinctive accident. So, okay. We tie him into Apocalypse. We tie him into the Mother Box. Basically, when he got destroyed, it was because of the attack from Apocalypse. Basically, Darkseid and his forces attacked, and that was the accident. And his father fixed him with something he was toying with in the lab, which was a Mother Box. Which essentially, that's what creates the boom tubes and the transportation, and it's like an apocalyptic supercomputer that creates portals. That's what the Mother Box is. So he basically uses that to revive him and kind of meld technology and apocalyptic technology and everything around him. So, I mean, one thing, it just makes him convolute. That was the thing that always kind of bugged. My point is, like, Cyborg being on the team was one thing. Then we kind of convolute with, like, okay, now he's part of Apocalypse. Like, guys, what are we doing? He's just a robot, man. He's a robotic teen who's dealing with that. Let's keep it simple. But again, over time, it's grown on me. It's grown on me over time because it just gives him something specific and stuff. And he's and it links him to the apocalyptic tech, and he can create portals, and he can decipher things. He's always like Darkseid's like the Thanos of the DC universe, so we have an advantage against Thanos. So we got the point is they made Cyborg Vision is what I'm saying. He's like a walking infinity gem. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, that's problematic, Dragon. You're right about that. I feel like if they would have just kept the whole he's a founding member of the Teen Titans and he's a proven leader. I feel like if they would have kept to that and not added all the convoluted mother box stuff, I feel like the idea could have been salvaged a little bit more.
And that, Tiki, you brought up, and I realized I missed it. And that's the thing, Tiki, is that when they did that reboot, they got rid of all the Teen Titans. Like the idea is he wasn't part of any Teen Titans. That's the thing. It was just from the start. Like we introduced him fresh, and we kind of made this random football player important now. And that's the thing. I mean, basically, you're working with.
I can see that being problematic. I get what you're saying now. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that can't work. Again, I'm not saying just introducing him as a football player from the outset, but I'm just saying introducing him just kind of that freshly into a story. We don't know.
Sure.
It's from what I understand. From what I understand, I don't know if they again. Young Justice did this a lot better, which we'll get to. But my point is it's just like Cyborg. He's just okay. We see him on the field, then the accidents, and we don't know about the whole issues with his father before that happens. Like we learn about after he's fixed by his father. So to me, it's a little problematic. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm complaining too much about Cyborg here. What I'm getting at is, he with this.
Yeah, what's up, man? What's Cyborg ever do to you? I'm just kidding.
My point being, this apocalyptic technology, it's like the pinnacle of cutting edge technology, and he's become more Vision-like as the movies happen. So that's where we're kind of transitioning into the movies, where they kind of made him into a really low rent Vision for the Justice League movie, where it just progressively it was kind of lingering like that. And again, he was supercomputer in him, and it's just that's what makes him special. That's why he's on the team, and we just kind of left him there. And then the movie's okay, it's just he's low rent Vision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so I mean, yeah, how do you feel about him in the movie is what I'm asking.
What movies in particular?
Well, it means the Justice League movie, the 2017 one.
Oh, I mean, he's the biggest. I mean, Dragon. I believe that the actor literally thanked. I don't think I'm making this up, Dragon. I believe the actor literally. Oh God,
Ray Stevenson.
Literally thanked Joss Whedon for cutting some of his scenes out of the movie. They were so bad.
Oh, sorry, Ray Fisher. I got the completely.
Cyborg in the movie was he was really shoehorned in there, man. I mean, it was not a very flattering depiction. I mean, you could have done that movie in Cyborg just outside of the ridiculous mother box stuff, which is why I guess they had him in there to begin with. You really didn't need him in there, at least on a characterization level. I mean, I really disservice to him.
I mean, yeah, it did, and also it was going to be worse too because they were going to introduce him in. They were going to shoehorn him even. I heard they were going to shoehorn him even more into Batman v Superman, but. Because I mean, there's supposed to be a whole football stadium scene and everything, but again, I'm not sure if they were going to see him on the field or not. I'm pretty sure we were going to see him on the field, but the point is, yeah, it's just always been Cyborg is in the DCEU. He's always been the victim of cut scenes, and it may have helped him a little bit in the long run, but there's more questions what about all that stuff we were going to see, where he's going to be taken over, he's going to lose his part of his face and everything, where he's going to the helmet was going to come down and fly in that one shot. What? Nothing. And and that's the thing. So I mean, broadly, so they use the new 52 version for the movie, and basically he's kind of been stuck on every permutation of the Justice League ever since the new 52 on, where they've shoehorned him into every version of the team going forward, in both in continuity.
Yeah, and Dragon, I guess that's the issue. Like I said, I hate to keep repeating myself, but it bears repeating. It's I really feel with the built-in history of the Teen Titans, he could work on the Justice League. But the problem is these ideas just seem to randomly be throwing him onto the team without that built-in history, and that's where it becomes problematic.
And then here's where it becomes even more problematic. So I've always ranted about the DC original animated in continuity films. The Hello, you there?
Yep, I'm here. Hello?
Good. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm sorry. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
Okay, good, good. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yes, sorry. What I was getting at is that I've always ranted about the in continuity DC movies. The original animated movies and all that stuff with with how they're basically Just League War on, which now you have definitely gotten a piece of what I kind of did.
And
They're kind of
again,
stuck in
Dragon, we'll get
continuity
into
of that.
Justice League War. I don't hate that one nearly as much as you do, but
Sure, sure. And I guess my point is that sorry, folks, I'm a little scattered at the moment. What was my train of thought. Oh yes, right. Sorry, yeah, they did in that in continuity universe. They did the Teen Titans, and basically they introduced the Teen Titans, and the idea is Cyborg is now stuck on the Justice League, so they have to kind of make him into kind of classic like Booyah Teen Titans Cyborg, and it just feels really awkward.
oh, that feels off, yeah.
That's where they really kind of dug themselves into a hole.
Right,
And again,
right.
just the grand scheme of it, they want basically they use this whole like the apocalyptic thing of it all. Like it's a more aggressive man versus the machine. It's taken over, which again, it's an interesting story point, but it's like I don't know. I think
It's not exactly the character that we've come to know and love.
it's like we keep it's like an interesting idea, but again, it's like I'm just like looking at the evolution of the character there. We kind of have some interesting stories where it's more aggressive man versus machine, where he's trying to keep the machine at bay. It's like his humanity is keeping the machine at bay. Where he's where he's sort of um sorry. Basically, where he like the machine is trying to take over, and his humanity is stopping it before it fully takes over. And like there have also been some good stories where like he has to sacrifice a part of his body to go kind of help out Aquaman. Like, he has like a lung to fish. Like if he goes into Atlantis, he has to lose like his father offers to build him like an artificial lung, which of course would he's losing more pieces of his humanity, which really weirds him out. So, and that's a good story idea.
Yeah, right,
That's what I'm
right.
talking about. They do stories like that, so that's why I'm at two minds about the whole like doing some of this aggressive kind of man versus machine stuff. But at the same time, it's like we're given like a split personality with like the apocalyptic kind of computer in his head sometimes. So
Uh-huh.
you know,
Yeah, it's a tricky tightrope to walk down, definitely. I mean, at the same time, the character can't just like be a cliche like booyah type guy for his whole comic book history. You know what I mean? You got to do something to evolve the characterization. So yeah, I can see that being tricky for sure.
absolutely. All right, so let's talk some defining moments.
Okay. All right, Dragon. I guess now is as good a time as any to say I really like the I really like the Cyborg and Shazam stuff in Justice League War. I really do. That to me was a great Cyborg storyline. I'm not saying the movie was great. The movie was very jumbled and it felt kind of like a mess, but the Cyborg and Shazam stuff was by far the best part of it, and I really like that whole dynamic. I don't know what to tell you.
You might have cut out there, but I heard what you said though. It's that you love the Shazam cyborg dynamic, right?
It's by far the best part of that movie.
Yes, and
Like,
that movie has a lot of problems with.
yeah.
I want to talk Young Justice here. So again, like Jesse Ward to me has like a really weird version of the cyborg origin. Where just like, yeah, I'm gonna take your little mother box and basically blows up.
Right. I'm gonna do something clearly dangerous.
Yeah, and basically Young Justice. This is a recent example. So if anyone hasn't watched Young Justice, this is a spoiler. All right, so try to avoid this. Again, it's not a huge spoiler for like again people. I think people know the lineup of the new season of Young Justice. I think they know Cyborg's in it. So and of course I'm basically telling you the origin of Cyborg. Yeah, what I'm saying is they adapted it really well.
Oh,
And it's like Tika, you saw it. Tell the folks what you thought of the Young Justice version of Cyborg's
I
origin.
mean,
Like seeing
keep in mind, I don't really know anything about Cyborg's characterization outside of this, but yeah, I mean, they definitely made it very gritty and realistic, and kind of emphasize the body horror of it all, which is definitely what it reminded me, Dragon? It reminded me of like the very, 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 very brief moments in Fan Four Stick that were actually compelling body horror.
Yeah, and I mean that's they've always kind of danced around like in the old days they always dance around Cyborg's origin. But I mean I got to tell you, Young Justice and kind of some stuff going forward again, basically making peace with the idea of okay, fine, the Mother Box brings him back, and yeah, he's a member of the Justice League. All right, all right, all right. But Young Justice, I don't know if it's purely because of the whole the fact that again he's not technically on the Justice League, he's working with the Young Justice guys, which again is kind of a middle ground between Teen Titans and Justice League for me, I guess. I don't know if it's that, or just the fact that again I think they executed the sequence so well. I mean they really sold me on the apocalyptic technology because again like how it operates and how it was like a really risky thing for the father to do after. I mean here's the thing that really sold me on it. Again, it's even before like the gruesome body horror of it all. What really gets me is I love the intensity. Again, Cyborg he basically was there for an episode. They introduced Victor Stone in an episode. And it was like, oh my God, look, it's Victor Stone. I had no idea they were doing Cyborg. Wow.
Right, yeah.
And they're doing them, and it's like,
okay. Is this a post reboot?
You mean after?
I mean, I know it's not a reboot, but like it's post when the show came back, right?
Yeah, this is after the show came back.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
They came back with season 3, so this is season 3, Young Justice.
Gotcha. Okay.
So like Victor Stone, he's introduced, and it's like, okay, wow. And then again, like I believe in just one episode. I mean, they may have introduced him the episode before, like the very end of it or something. But the point is, Stone's introduced, and we get to know him a little bit. And what we know about him, really, in like one scene between him and his father, you know everything you need to know. Where like the setup of the episode was, he wants his father to come to his game. And it says, and his father promises, "You've said that before." It says, "Look, I promise, I'll be there." And the idea is the father is wrapped up in deciphering them in the Mother Box. He's fascinated by the Mother Box. And he's trying to figure out the Justice League gave him the Mother Box. And he's deciphering it. And what happens is he misses the game, and Cyborg comes, and Victor Stone comes storming into his dad's lab with the Mother Box. And it's this really, you saw this, it has that ticking clock thing of like, oh, that wire's going to be severed, and the accident's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
And what I love about that is, they have this very real conversations. The blow up is what fascinated me so much. Like I've never seen this dynamic done so well than it is right now. Where again, he's raising all these points, and his father is just he's a disassociated parent. The guy's just he's not present. Like my favorite part of it is like when Victor's like saying. He says, well, maybe if you get your grades. He says, my grade, I'm a 4.0. What are you talking about? He's like just shouting at how uninvolved the father is in his son's life. And he's just storming at him. I will not talk to you while you're being irrational. He's making perfect sense, but he's rightfully pissed off. Mm-hmm. He storms out. But
the most cutting part of the whole thing was when Victor realizes what's happening to him, the whole cybergenetic thing. And he's like, oh my God, it took me almost dying for you to care.
That is the most cutting part. But for me, the most heartbreaking moment. Again, the thing I don't even need here's the thing, Tiki. I didn't even need to see the disfiguring because disfiguring was like, oh my God, they're really going for it.
Yeah, wow. I mean, the disfigurement is always something like it's like you can like kind of like picture it in your mind's eye when you watch Teen Titans, but you don't really want to because waffles and booyah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the Young Justice season 3 because they're not on a network essentially. Basically they're using the old robot logic from Batman the Animated Series where you can kill characters in a brutal fashion so long as they don't actually die.
Right.
There's this character with a healing factor on the show, Teak, and they kill her in all the most brutal, gruesome ways.
Right. I remember being quite horrified at Heroes Season 1 in some of the ways that they offed Claire. I remember that.
And it's pretty much like that with that character. And with Cyborg here, again, they can really brutally really hurt him because, again, we know he doesn't die, so he's fine.
Right.
But still, like we see, like the open beating hard and like the missing the skull. Here's the thing: they pulled a Gus Fring on him where we see the skull. Man, that's what scares me. Like, oh God. No, but seriously, I didn't even need to see all that. That was like the icing on the cake of wow, they're really going for it. But for me, what really signifies it that they got the moment, that they got the intensity and all the characterization I wanted from it was the moment where it's the machine's about to be destroyed, like it's about to overload and kind of blow up. And he just has that moment where he opens the door, which is severed the cable, and he says, "Dad." Then, like, oh my God, they got it so well. I've never seen the Cyborg origin told that well.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
All right, so of course, let's see. So defining moments, of course, the catchphrase "Booyah" just never gets old.
Flashpoint. We have to talk about Flashpoint.
Yes, let's talk about Flashpoint. So Cyborg, that's an else. Well, not an Elseworld story. It's so Flashpoint is. I don't want to bog you down with all the details. The point is, Flashpoint kicks off the New 52 because the Flash changes reality at the end of it. Because he went back in time to save his mother, which that's pretty much that's what that story is. He goes back in time to save his mother, and of course, when you go back in time, you screw up the timeline, which creates this alternate reality. Which, in fixing the alternate reality, creates the New 52. So the point is, Flash is to blame for all the New 52 shortcomings. So bad Flash. No, I'm kidding. The Flash gets a Scott Snyder.
Flash.
No, the Flash gets a Scott Snyder, so I'm not mad. Anyway.
Right.
So seriously, though, so let's take us through it. Start us off.
You better get us to the Superman point, Dragon, because I'm pretty lost until we get to the Superman.
So the idea is, in the messing with the timeline, things have kind of been topsy-turvy, and like certain events have changed. You have like the Thomas Wayne Batman, which of course that's a great section we don't want to talk about because we're gonna be too involved in it. You have all the Thomas Wayne Batman stuff. You have like Hal Jordan's a pilot who dies instead of gets a Green Lantern ring. You have the big thing, the correlation between Superman is that Superman did not land in Kansas. He landed in Metropolis, and like, oh my God, like a foreign, like a UFO has landed in the city. Therefore, that he's now raised by the government. And unfortunately, folks, the government ain't friendly. Well, sometimes, most of the time, the government ain't friendly.
It's the government, ET, run.
Pretty much, it's kind of the ET take on Superman.
Back when Family Guy used to be good, Dragon. Let us not forget.
Making me wishful. But with Cyborg,
shit they pulled this week, by the way.
Don't not now.
Okay, fair
I don't
enough.
even want to know, man. I keep going back like a battered wife out of curiosity, and just
no.
I don't know. I don't want to know.
Talk about it off air. We'll talk about it.
Tell me about it off air. Okay, my point. Okay, so here's the cool thing. So Cyborg, the idea is that Cyborg is now the government-sponsored Superman figure. Like he's the guy who believes in the system, and if you notice, he's lacking more humanity than ever before. That's why he's like twice the size of Batman. He's super tall because he's all mechanical now, with the exception of a few parts. So it's kind of the Uber Cyborg, but again, he completely believes in the system. He's very optimistic, which is kind of like, what if Cyborg? I'm inferring this. Bear in mind, I'm inferring that Cyborg. It's like, what if the accident happens, but he kind of believed in a system instead of finding the Teen Titans. Like, what if that was kind of the story there? Which again, as almost like an Elseworld sort of deal. Again, it's an alternate timeline, kind of like an alternate reality. That's what that story I thought was so well told, at least what they were going for. At the end, it's not a perfect story in the animated film, but the point is the idea of that whole story, I feel on the whole, is so well told. That was when I first really bought into the whole Cyborg on the Justice League idea. It's like, you know what? They're selling me more on Cyborg as kind of coming back in a bigger way outside of the team. Basically, Cyborg outside of the Teen Titans showed promise. And what really sold me on it, just aside from the intrigue of that idea, was that, okay, he's kind of the Superman of this alternate timeline. And then he meets the actual Superman.
Yeah, and I think there's some really powerful animation and voice acting with this Superman. The kind of just like the super thin, really sickly looking Clark Kent, who's still like very, very powerful, like too powerful for his own good. There's some powerful storytelling here.
Let me tell you this. One, I love the legacy casting pool on that Superman because it's Sam Daly. That's Tim Daly's son playing Superman.
Nice.
And again, there's stuff I could bore you with right now, but we can't talk about Superman too much right now. We want to keep
of course, yeah.
My point is, what's so horrible and creepy about this, horrible in a good way, like, it's like completely, like, it gives you shivers down the spine of what they're saying about the Superman. Is the idea is that he's kept in a giant a giant lead shielded room with these red sun lamps on him. Like, this is where his living quarters are. As in, these red sun lamps, they never turn off ever since they found him as a baby. And he's just grown up to be this emaciated, tortured man of steel, more like man of tinfoil in this case. And he's just and the beautiful idea.
Like, think of like the closest thing we'll ever get to like Superman meets Mr. Glass.
Pretty much. And I mean, the guy's like, these bones aren't going to break, but I tell you though, I mean, it looks like they could. It looks like they could.
Yeah, right,
He's
right.
just so thin and emaciated and so terrified of the world. And that's the thing. And with the crux of what I'm getting at here is that Cyborg is a champion for the system, and he sees that the system is wrong. This alien so horribly, and he's just trying. And I love the pep again, like it's Superman. It's almost like a reverse Steel in a way, and I love it. Like a reverse Johnny Arends, where it's
exactly
kind of the symbol of Superman, giving the actual Superman hope, saying, "Hey, what happened to you isn't the way the world's supposed to work." And he's always kind of playing counterpoint to the very cynical Thomas Wayne Batman. He's like, "Yeah, sure, right." And it's this beautiful thing, and like the friendship that kind of pays off between these two. This Superman, again, he's inspired by he has a friend now with this cyborg, and he like saves his life from evil Aquaman.
Oh God.
Yeah. So yeah.
Gotta love it. Gotta love comic books. Am I right?
It's crazy.
All right. All right. Anything? Moments? Any other things you can think of?
Well, let me just like fire a few here. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, the kind of bullet point a little bit here. I mentioned I love him push 100%, pushing past 100%. You know, where he's kind of like cracks the little meter on his arm. He's again the whole Atlas battle, where he's kind of found his humanity deep within himself as he's pushing his cybernetic limitations.
Oh,
I love with Fix It. He has this moment where the image that always haunt my memories with Cyborg in a really great way is that in the Sum of His Parts episode, Fix It is trying to fix him in the way he sees him, that he's an incomplete machine, not an incomplete human. He tries to make him fully mechanical, and we have this really daunting image of like these cybernetic parts, which includes like half of a mask that would go over his face, and he sees the reflection. He has like this nightmare where he looks into a mirror, and it's like he's all like a fully cybernetic face.
Yeah, that was really affecting for sure.
Yes, and what I love there is like when he's trying to make that happen, like Cyborg, he's trying to talk his way out of it, and he realizes, oh my god, this guy himself is like he's all machine, so he's not going to listen to him. He's like Quado, man, he's just not going to listen to me. So he's so basically Cyborg. As the process is about to be done, they're going to basically wipe his memories, and as they're going through the memories, he's like begging, no, you can't take away my memories and what make me who I am. We see these flashbacks to what we saw earlier in the episode, like Cyborg being kind of the happy-go-lucky guy. And it's like, yeah, that's who that character is to me. It's like, again, he has this tragedy, but he's trying to move past it. You know, he's just trying to be a happy-go-lucky guy with the reminders time to time. And the big thing with that episode, the big thing is the moment with the kid. We got to talk about the moment with the kid.
All right, go for it.
It's such a beautiful moment where there's this kid at the start of the episode, start and the end of the episode. It's all full circle and nice and stuff. Where this kid has lost a hand. He's lost a limb, and he has like kind of a prosthetic hand. And he goes up to Cyborg. And it's like the ultimate Mean Joe Green Coconut Smile moment where he goes up to Cyborg and says, "Hey Cyborg, I'm just like you. Look," saying, you know, I have prosthetics, as do you. And later on in the episode, after he went through this whole experience, this whole ordeal, he says, yes, you are, but you know, it's not because your arm, it's because of what's in here, because of what's in your heart. You know, it's like, oh my god, that was so beautiful.
Yeah, really good stuff.
You want to talk about Truck?
Remind me what that I might not have gotten to that one, Dragon, because I didn't get to the last couple ones that you said.
Oh right, well that was a clip. The clip I sent you, the thing with Starfire.
Oh yeah. Right. That was really powerful because again, it's kind of like a kind of like a comic booky way to deal with racism and racial slurs, something that Cyborg knows about more than anyone else. Dragon, my favorite part of that thing is how Robin reacts to it.
Oh yeah, it's Robin, Cyborg. Sorry, God, Robin and Starfire. Yeah, they got a special relationship, and of course, Robin, he's not going to take anything with. Darn it! Sorry, because here's the thing: I wanted to make a Cyborg point, but now I'm changing to the Robin point.
No, I'm sorry. I want to highlight the thing because it is adorable.
But yes, it is. I've always loved the Robin Starfire relationship.
Yeah.
I've been.
I love how it's like we don't even hear what they say. It's just like he said what.
Yeah, Robin ain't having that. That Tiki, that's Robin done right with the Teen Titans, by the way.
Sure.
Anyway, So yeah, I mean, of all the characters, she's having this conversation with Cyborg, and I love. There's a great moment of pause too. It's gonna sound really weird, but there's a moment of pause I think speaks volumes. Where, of course, she calls her truck, not realizing essentially it's the Tamaranian equivalent to the N word, meaning nothing. It just means you are nothing. You are worthless. It's pretty much. And and there's a moment of pause where she asks like how something along the lines of do you not you don't know what it's like to be called something like that, or to be looked at, or to be treated differently, or looked at as nothing, something along those lines. Basically, you don't know what it's like to have know what that.
Kind of like what I was getting at originally with my thesis on Cyborg is like, we can kind of look at it both ways. It's like Cyborg, obviously being African American, I'm sure he's experienced some sort of prejudice in his life in that regard. But of course, the thing he cites is being the half machine, half man, and it really kind of speaks to the racial disconnect that some people feel, and I think that's a very powerful moment for him.
Yeah, there's like another good moment with Starfire as well, with between Cyborg and Starfire, with like the Victor Stone thing, where he goes undercover and he laments like, "I wish I could be Victor Stone." And she kind of gives him. I think these two have had kind of a neat little relationship as well. Like they have a really kind of comforting relationship where like again they're both kind of, again, there's a team of outcasts to an extent, and of the outcasts you have those two really having a really kind of, they can be real with each other, and. Starfire has a problem, and of course Cyborg having a problem. She goes to him knowing that something's off. And so it was a really beautiful scene that we share at the end of that. We've had some hilarious one-liners with Kari Payton and Cyborg. Remember the whole Anna Diet Soda? We have this thing where like Beast Boy has a job in a fast food restaurant. It serves all meat. and basically Cyborg gives this ridiculously long order, and at the end it's Kari Payton with one of those, Kari Payton, one of those beautiful deliveries where it says, and a diet soda. Nice. Oh, it's delightful. It just is. I love Cyborg the Barbarian. I haven't talked about that at all. T. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, that was a really good time travel episode, Dragon. What I love so much about that one is like, it kind of goes to show like just how much your perspective can change based on an experience. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and again, I love Cyborg starting as, again, being what primarily he is. He's the tech guy of the team. He loves the tinker. He loves the kind of upgrade and everything. The Titan's Tower. Beware, we have waffles. All that. And of course, he's basically taken to a place where he's sent back in time, and he's essentially he's kind of in a very primitive situation. He's running low on power. I love the ticking clock of that story, and again, it becomes. In a way, he kind of becomes, and this is, again, I don't want to just make the obvious comparison here, but again, it's kind of like he's putting on armor. It's kind of like it's kind of a reverse Steel in a way. It's kind of becoming more human.
I would say more Planet Hulk.
That's man. Yours is better. Yeah, it is Planet Hulk, man. It is. It's pretty much Planet Hulk. I was going for like kind of like a reverse Steel humanity thing, but I think yours is better. It's kind of a Planet Hulk story for Cyborg. He's kind of thrown into a very unfamiliar situation, becomes a gladiator, and again, a really brave gallant.
And then I feel like it's Planet Hulk, especially because of how much he embraces the role within the story.
Absolutely, he even falls in love. And again, I love the ending where I just love thinking about how crazy and awesome this story is, man. Where Cyborg, he's brought back at like the height of heights of the big climax of the story, and he's brought back, and the man who, again, he's been longing to get back, and he had an opportunity to go back, but he didn't because he wanted to save his new friends, and basically now he's been brought back as a one-way trip. He cannot go back to the barbarian times and then help save the day. And he's just like, send me back. It's like, oh my God. And Kari Payton gave him a wonderful dramatic performance and really out there episode. And of course,
it's really good. Yeah.
Like, send me back, and of course, like Raven giving him solace, and again, he and Raven have had some great moments too. Because Raven was supportive of the whole car thing, like they were working on the car together, and just kind of Raven giving him the book, showing that, hey, it's you without this armor on, and he looks at the girl that he left behind. It's like, oh man, Cyborg has been blessed with some really. There's never been a clunker of a Cyborg episode, in my opinion. There's never been a clunker. All been top notch.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so I guess that brings us to kind of our parting impact of it all here, folks. Let's the impact that Cyborg has had on the culture as a whole.
Yeah. Dragon, I'll basically just kind of use this as my final thoughts, and I'll keep it kind of short and sweet here. I think that Cyborg really is, like I said, I do think it's a shame that the Justice League stuff was mishandled as much as it was, because at the end of the day, given the stuff on his resume, I do think he deserves to be a member of the Justice League. I just wish it was gone about in a less sloppy manner from a story perspective, because I feel like Cyborg is like one of those characters where he takes a lot of demographics, man. Obviously he's the teenager, like he's kind of like the big influence for young people. Like I said, I feel like that's an important thing, when you break down the big black heroes of the time, Luke Cage's and the Black Panthers of the world. Here's a character where it's like, okay, this is a guy that I can truly like. This is this is me leaping off of the comic page, and I think there's something really profound in that. Not only that, but he's kind of this happy-go-lucky guy with sort of an identity crisis thing going on. As I've already kind of illustrated, I feel like the half man, half machine thing making him feel different is sort of a not a racism allegory per se, but something to shine a light on the racism and kind of make it more palatable for kids. And I feel like that's very important. And just overall, I feel like he's a character that's definitely endeared over the years. And I really do think that out of all the original Teen Titans characters, he's probably the most well-rounded and best developed one. And I really think he's another worthy character in our lineup. I'm glad we got to him.
Yeah, he's he's a character with he's a character with a handicap to magnify a relatable problem in a kind of a superheroic context. It's kind of it's kind of Cyborg in a nutshell. Again, we gave him this. Again, kind of gave him a superheroic handicap to kind of exemplify people. Again, just to kind of be the allegory for any problem, to be kind of a problem or a difference, to kind of umbrella it under that. He's a prominent member of a team of insecure, evolving characters, so he's in good company. I think he reaches. I mean, this thing that I just want to kind of highlight before we're out of here is that I think the impact of Cyborg. I'm reading this. I don't know this for sure, but I'd imagine that Cyborg would reach not only the outcasts, but he'd reach the outcasts, the veterans, the disabled, the tech savvy.
Sure, no doubt. Like we saw with that kid.
Yeah. It's I think there's also a bit of a lesson for athletes too. I'm not saying it's exclusively for athletes or anything, but I mean, I imagine there might be a lesson for athletes in the story of Cyborg, where you're not defined by your physical, in a few ways. One, you're not defined by your physical capabilities. And there's life beyond injury, because athletes a lot of the time they get injured, and that's it for them. They fall into depression, some bad things happen. It can be a career-ending thing, and I think Cyborg's kind of like a. It's kind of a wish fulfillment of like, what if you were a prized athlete and then it was kind of taken away from you, but you kind of found something to kind of fill the void and kind of do something positive in the world. And that's what the Titans and on the Justice League. He's I think a bigger impact is that he's on the Justice League now and he's still around. And you could say again that part of it would be whether he's on there for like a diversity sake or whatnot, because there's always kind of the Justice League, they have a diverse cast in themselves, but by the same token, there's always kind of like there's that one character they want there for a very specific reason. Justice League, the animated series, it was Hawk Girl. He wanted kind of like two women on the team, someone who was you had a woman and a Martian on a team. We wanted to kind of diversify it that way. But again, I like to think there's more to it than that. Again, while I don't agree with it, I've made peace with it. We're okay. Cyborg's on the team. It's like because again, Cyborg's a guy who can carry his own book, which I've seen kind of have a few spin-offs these days. So that's cool. But I think, however you feel about it, again, I don't want to just clatter with my view on it. But at the end of the day, I think the impact is that people love and care about this character so much that they put him with the big leagues, and that I think that speaks for something, whether you agree with it or not. Is that that's a testament to the love and the impact this character has had. That they put him on the big leagues, they put him with the Justice League. This guy's never going away. He's going to be merchandised and on T-shirts, and kids are going to see this character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he kind of blurs the line of kind of hero and athlete in a really cool way, where he's pushing limits, he's pushing past tragedy. he finds joy in life, and he brings fun to while he's bashing bad guys, with a booyah. That's the cool thing about the character. He's just a really cool, inventive character who I think is just he's going to endure where he's going to end up. I don't you never know. I assume the Justice League for a period of time. I imagine this whole Doom Patrol thing they're doing. I don't know if that's going to have an impact of like just putting him on kind of a Young Justice or Doom Patrol again. Like they're doing a Doom Patrol show now. You never know where Cyborg's going to end up. But I'm darned like he was even in Smallville for some bizarre reason. The point Cyborg can appear in the most unlikely of places, but I'm glad to have him just being around.
All right.
All right.
Sorry, just finding the outro. Okay, sorry, got it. All right, folks, that's all for now. Until next time, when we talk about the heroes who made the leap from page to screen, showing us a world not simply black or white, but brimming with color and character.
With our next installment of Black History Heroes.
And in the morning, I'm making waffles.